So hey ELA family, Miss Bonnie here with another one of my furry friends. This is Capone. He's a Maine Coon mix. He is my cat, and again, those in my classroom hear some stories about him. I don't know if he's as famous as Sam, but he's kind of a crabby old man, and I'm sure when I put him down, Sam's about to chase him because she's going to be jealous that I was holding him. So, oh Sam, yeah, she's stalking him out. Typical siblings, right? So anyway, when last we left off, we were talking a little bit about unicorns as magical creatures and writing a thesis statement about them. So here's a reminder of what we had going. And let me minimize myself again. The unicorn is an extremely powerful and magical being. The unicorn's horn could be used to heal severe wounds, purify water, and nullify poison. And this was something we'd written after looking up on the OWL how to write thesis statements. So we had some of this information, and I have a lot of background information about unicorns because I've read a lot about unicorns because that's how I roll. And maybe you haven't written or read a lot about whatever animal or mythical creature you're going to talk about. So here's a good way to do research to find out about things, because all good writers are good readers. So we're going to go use Google. I know some people get all worked up about research on the internet, but I'm going to show you today how to make sure you find good stuff. Let me go to display capture. I'll make sure it's there. So I could say myths about unicorns. That's a good place to start. I could start with facts about unicorns. I could start with background information about unicorns. Facts and myths about unicorns. I actually really like that suggestion. So I'm going to click on that. So when I get to my page that gives me information, 40 interesting unicorn facts. Some of these serious facts might be interesting, but I don't always go with the .com first. And when I go through this, I'm seeing a lot of .coms. Now, here's a .com that you can trust, and it's the Britannica. Years ago, before the internet ever existed, there were things called encyclopedias, and they were like the old-fashioned internet. And Britannica is a very famous name for that encyclopedia, so I can kind of trust that one. Mental floss articles might be entertaining, but they're not really the kind of information I'm looking for. Now, Wikipedia.org, this is getting to be more reliable, especially because this isn't like a scientific paper about unicorns. So now I have two different, resources I'm going to read up on unicorns for. I might even just go to the second page. Wired.com, no. The weird kind of perverted history of the unicorn, not going to go ahead and recommend that. Although, when we talk about, right underneath it does say the myth of the unicorn might have started from sightings of the antelope, also the narwhal. That's something I know from background information. But we're going to keep going through and see if there's anything else that looks accurate that I can add. Brief history of the unicorn in Time. Well, Time magazine is, somewhat reliable. So we're going to open that. Now let's go over here to Britannica. And Britannica starts with information describing the unicorn. Unicorn, mythological animal resembling a horse or a kid, which they don't mean a human child, they mean a goat kid, so a goat, with a single horn on its forehead. For those of you who lived in the 80s, Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus bred a goat to have a single horn in its head, and I could even look up a picture of him for you. And he made the rounds, and he was really pretty neat looking. But, so here is a lot of different information about the unicorn. And the first thing it starts with is a description of the unicorn. And this is a picture of a unicorn tapestry, which is super famous. I was lucky as a kid. I got to see them when they were on tour to the museum, or the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Excuse me. I almost want to say the Museum of Natural History, which is also in New York City. And they're beautiful. They're very large tapestries. So that is something else we could look up as we begin to research on unicorns. Certain passages of the Bible refer to a strong and splendid horned animal. Unicorn or rhinoceros could have been the original unicorn as well. So we find out a lot more as we read this. Let's look over at Wikipedia. Talks about a legendary creature. They describe again what it looked like. They mention them in art again, so we know that unicorns are very popular in art. I've mentioned that they were used in entertainment by Ringling Brothers. In fact, I'm going to look up a picture of that ridiculous beast. Ringling Brothers unicorn. And oh wow, he had a really shiny horn in that picture. Let's see. This is a good picture of the living unicorn. I kind of remember him like that. I remember they paraded him out. Yeah, there was always this is when they painted his horn gold. But as you can see, he's a goat. He was super popular with Ringling Brothers in the 80s and 90s. I don't know if he was quite that horse-like, but the artist renderings make him look a little bit more mythical. So of course it could have just been a genetic mutation that caused, maybe, there it goes, I saw the living unicorn. That's exactly how I remember it. So it could have been a genetic mutation on some goats that created the myth of the unicorn. Maybe it was a real being, I don't know. And then Time magazine gives us a brief history of the unicorn, and it actually goes into talking about a deer with a single horn that would be a unicorn, and gives us even more information here to read. So as you can see, let me go ahead and close that, and I will reopen that. Now that I have done some reading, and of course you have to do the real reading, I was able to kind of cruise through there and prove that I have this information. But you have to go ahead and read through there, and we'll make some notes. Now, I had said some of our notes out loud. I said things like goats may have been unicorns, rhinos may have been unicorns. I talked about the circus having a goat unicorn for entertainment. It spoke about what unicorns looked like. Traditionally, they might have a gold or a I would say gold, silver, or rainbow horn. Usually white with like feathered legs. When I say feathered legs, I don't mean birds' legs. I mean like long hairs. You'll see them with like very long hairs on their legs. So these are some things we just learned quickly in our reading. And now I'm starting to look back at what we started with, and this is a good way to pre-write. Of course, I usually do this on a notebook, but I have to type it here. So now I look back at my first thesis, which is kind of long. It's made of 2 sentences, and I think to myself, wow, I've really narrowed down my paper if I'm only going to talk about a unicorn's horn. And this might be a better topic for an entire paragraph. So I'm going to kind of move this information down here. And I never like to cut and paste because I always think I'm going to lose it. I'm just weird. I always copy and paste. And now I have a few more things I know about unicorns. The unicorn is an extremely powerful and magical being. That was a generalized statement I made early on. Goats may have been unicorns and rhinos may have been unicorns. That's, of course, in the past historically. Circus had a goat for the entertainment value and made a lot of money off of it. And I'll mention that it happened in the 1980s. And you'll notice I'm kind of just doing some shorthand with this. I'm not just typing out a paper right away. And I say gold or silver, rainbow horn, usually white with feathered legs. I remember another thing just now that we would have, it was depicted in art historically. And we'll say unicorn tapestries. And the unicorn's horn could be used to heal severe wounds, purify water, and nullify poison. And that's a thesis I wrote last week. So now you're starting to see how this is more like a pre-writing. It's almost like a journaling. Of course, I can't hand this in as a completed paper, but I'm starting to get some meat on the bones. And I've started to put some of my research together and talk about things. So this is a way in which we used our thesis and kind of some general information to start to jumpstart the research process. Sometimes people research first and then write their thesis. But no matter what way you do it, you just have to make it work for you. And I think this is probably a good time for me to step off this week and let you think more about your papers and your mythical being or whatever you're writing about and do some research and reading on it. Like I said, good writers are good readers. And so we have to take the time to read that information and absorb it. If you don't like to read, or you find reading challenging for you, you could always go to YouTube and find similar reliable resources, and that would also help you out a lot. Okay, I'll go ahead and minimize some stuff. There I am. So thanks for tuning in this week. I always really appreciate it. I hope everybody is healthy and well. That's the most important thing. And we will see you next time for some more facts and information and writing on unicorns. See you soon. Bye.